Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome. We're happy to have all of you here with us tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief Bill Carter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight, we're going to hear from Karen Marsh of Covenant Presbyterian Church. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me? Let's bow our heads for a prayer. Gracious Lord, we commit this meeting to you. Come and reveal your will in every aspect of our life and community. And as we discuss the affairs of this town meeting, we ask for your will to be done. Show us your purposes. Enlighten us that we may know what you want, how you want us to accomplish your task. We desire your glory and blessing in all we do. Direct our thoughts, words, decisions, and actions toward the right path and help us stay on track. Let your will be done as we plan and make decisions. Amen.
Thank you again. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Did we have anyone signed up for public comment? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move into section 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is a presentation of an ordinance to add Chapter 16, Article 1, Section 1611 to the UDO to eliminate alcohol in the community center. Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here tonight to present for a request to eliminate alcohol in the community center. Prior to 2020, the community center regularly hosted multiple events that allowed alcohol with the right permits, with proper staffing, with police on staff, and a security company patrolling the parking lots. These events did become problematic in a few ways. These events, usually staff wouldn't get out of there till about 3 a.m., 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning, which a lot of staff did not enjoy working that late, obviously. And with a majority of my staff being under the age of 18, it became harder to find any that were willing to work those events, or their parents allow them to work at such a late hour, with the majority of my staff being under that age. So we did try to work in our adult staff as much as possible, but tough on them and their families as well, being out till 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. As you can imagine. Along with that was also just having these under 18-year-old, most of them were students, just being around an alcohol event. These events aren't bartended. The renters were responsible for the distribute of alcohol, and it just didn't make me very comfortable having kids under that age around and it being so accessible to them. We also started having issues with damage in the community center. We've had things like fire doors kicked in. A fire door is very expensive. You can't just go down to Lowe's and get one of those. They've got to be fire rated, I think for 20 minutes in the community center, which means that they have to hold back a fire for that long. So it's not just something we can go and pick up. Multiple vent covers had been kicked in during the events, having to replace those. Those are special order items as well, so we have to wait for those to come in. As well as multiple toilets having to be replaced, urinals from them being ripped off the wall or just being damaged. And not to mention the damage that it caused to our floor. Our floor is a Duracourt sport floor. It is for sports type events. It's not really meant for 400 or 500 people, you know, on top of it dancing. And just with that many people on there so regularly, that floor would need to be replaced a lot sooner than the previous floor that was out there beforehand. And this, I would guess now that we haven't replaced it in a few years, but I would guess probably in this ballpark of $20,000 to $25,000 range to replace the floor in the community center. Also, the large-scale rentals, they do require multiple days. They would have their set up for Friday, so we would lose a programming day for Fridays. We weren't allowed to have any other rentals or any other sporting events inside the community center starting Friday for their setup. They had until 5 p.m. to set up, which is when we would normally close the gym on a Friday. Then they would have access back to the community center on Saturday afternoon to finish their prep on the community center, which is another day lost. Because alcohol events, they're required to rent the whole community center, not just the gymnasium. They have to include activity A, B, the kitchen, the gymnasium. So we're not allowed to rent to any other items like such as a birthday party, or we would not be allowed to have an exercise class that we normally could have had on a Friday or Saturday. And then we also lose a bit of Sunday. My staff would leave about 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, and then the paid cleaning crew would come in and have to do the heavy scale cleaning of the facility on Sundays. Usually it would have to be really early in the morning because we were renting to a church group on Sunday, so they were having to come in right after my staff would leave. They would have to get there. So essentially, he wasn't having to get there as early, so we're kind of losing a Sunday as well for those events. And just so everyone is aware, I did call around to the other departments in the county, as you can see in front of you. None of the departments allow alcohol in the parks. There was no shock there. The ones that you see that allows alcohol in certain facilities, being Apex, Garner, Holly Springs, Raleigh, Roseville, us, and Zebulon. Us and Zebulon are the only two that allow that alcohol in their gymnasiums. None of the other ones allow them into their programming space. They have facilities that are directly made for hosting alcohol-related events, such as Garner. They have their Arts and Crafts Center, which is designed to host events like this. It's not on their, we've got one community center here, one basketball court, and it takes up a lot of our space and a lot of our time on those floors. Us and Zebulon have very similar regulations as far as alcohol events. I'm figuring one of us is probably piggybacked off the other one because they're essentially the same policy, but there's not another single department in the county that does allow any kind of alcohol on their athletic courts. So with that being said, the current code reads, "No person shall have in his possession any alcoholic or other intoxicating beverage while in or on the property administered by or under the jurisdiction of the Parks and Recreation Department other than inside the community center during a scheduled event or otherwise allowed by the Wendell Board of Commissioners." My proposal tonight is to have other than inside the community center during a scheduled event strucken from this code. That way it does still allow the board some leniency if something does come up, if there's a certain event that the board feels strongly about. They could still allow an event in there. But myself, and this was also supported by the Recreation Board at our last month's meeting, was to remove all alcohol from the Wendell Community Center.
Any questions from the board?
Jeff, I have a question for you. What time were these events usually scheduled to end?
They have to cut their music at 11 o'clock p.m.
Okay. So your staff is spending another, 4 hours past the
Yes, sir.
time cleaning up?
Yeah, the music cuts at 11. I believe they have a timeline to get everybody cleared.
Okay.
They have to be out by 12, and then that's when our staff would begin their cleanup.
Okay.
So the cutoff is 12 for them to be out?
Yes, sir. And alcohol was cut off at 11 as well. They would make like a last call.
At 11.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else from the board? Yes.
looking at the numbers, and I understand, but it seems like the profit is $1,600 per event. I do find it interesting that police officers and 2 security guards cost the same thing. Is there ways that we move times, Jeff, that, I guess I'm trying to, along the lines of what I think Dr. Luke's was saying there. So we have a cleaning crew that's coming in the following day to do the cleaning, the staff that's there, like, how are we there until 2 or 3 in the morning if we got everybody out by 12?
That's cleaning up beer cans, putting up tables and chairs, getting people out of the building, cleaning up just hundreds of plates of food. They do a light, moderate, like, sweep through. The cleaning crew comes in, they actually do like the deep scrub of the floors and will mop and, go in and like scrub the toilets and the bathrooms down real well. Not really a follow-up, but the ability to, I guess I'd be interested in changes to, make it so we're not losing all of Friday for one of these events. I'd be interested in changes that maybe reduce the time, or it seems to me like capping the number of people that are allowed at an event, that might address one of the issues. Certainly, it's a community center, and I feel like it should be open for as much as we possibly can. I understand, though, that you may come back with a different fee structure that makes it more doable for your staff, as well as being able to protect that. In that policy piece, for me, I guess, is we have to know that there's going to be damage, and I guess I had assumed that there was something in the contract that we had with the person renting the facility that if they kick that door, I mean, like, I understand that we have to coordinate getting it replaced, but Yes.
I certainly hope we're not paying for it.
We fund it, and then the people that did whoever's responsible, whoever signed the contract with the town is responsible for those damages. It just takes us that amount of time to get something in place.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a couple questions. And maybe this is me being a little naive, but what kind of events are we holding that we're ripping urinals out and kicking doors in and?
The 12 events that you will see per year are Quinceañera events.
Yeah.
Then we did host 2 other alcohol. This would affect only the Quinceañeras, and 2 other events would be the Ducks Unlimited group. And the chamber used to host their banquet at the community center every year, but since they have started kind of moving it around town and I don't think they've hosted it at the community center in probably 2 or 3 years.
But if they did,
Well, it gives the board
the board has the flexibility.
the board flexibility to allow that the way that I would like it rewritten.
And then what kind of deposit are we charging up front? I know if we're fronting the money and getting the money back from folks, are we?
Yeah, they're paying about half up front.
Half of?
It's about $3 grand.
Okay, so of the fee, they're paying half of that up front.
Yes.
So there's no real security deposit necessarily for damage?
Before we'll put it on the books, they have to pay the half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have to pay the second half?
Up until that day.
And then I had a question about the floor. Is the damage to the floor coming in from the weight of the people, or is it,
Just
we're
the amount
spilling
of
food
usage.
and beverage, or?
It's a sport court. It's designed for tennis shoes mainly. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's for playing sports. Most of these events you're getting cowboy boots, stilettos, work boots.
Okay, that makes sense. So any sort of, aftermarket, I know they have the carpet swatch kind of things. I have no clue. I'm just cost-wise or anything like that. Does that prevent the type of damage that we have?
It would, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But then, we would have to consider, like I'm sure everybody else does, is spillages, drinks, food on top of, and where to store something that large.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I think the thing is most of the other events, these art centers like Garner has in Raleigh, they're designed for this kind of event. They're kind of set up for it. Where yes, we're a community center, but it's also our gym. It's our home base. It's the only one we have. And it's a shame. I hate to see so much damage happen to it because we take such pride in there.
Yeah, and I think,
And then it also comes back to staffing it. We really got into, nobody wants to work until 3 in the morning. It really becomes an issue. And especially right now, I would be concerned because we're severely understaffed. We're normally at around 20 to 25 people, and right now I think we're at 9 full-time staff.
and this was, you said, prior to 2020, so.
Yeah,
have we
2020 we stopped
experienced
because of the COVID.
But have we had any inquiries
Oh, yes.
recently?
Oh, yeah.
Staffed mostly by your part-time staff?
All part-time.
And are
2
they
police
high
officers
school?
inside, and then the 2 security guards that Mr. Joyner was asking about. They kind of patrol the parking lot. You're not allowed to have alcohol outside of the community center. And so those 2 people kind of roamed the outside and pushed everyone back inside that would be in the parking lot drinking.
So are the part-time staffers that you refer to, are these high school students?
Majority of them, yeah. We would have 1 supervisor on duty, a recreation leader, and then other than that, probably 4 or 5 18-year-olds. Under 18.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I would assume everybody, would have a concern there, but, maybe we factor that into our billing process for staffing. I don't know, I guess I'm just trying to think of ways to curtail, the bad apples that are spoiling it for the bunch.
Yeah.
Chip, I know that, and that I'm assuming that Meet on Main procured them, but during the Meet on Main event, there was like extra staff, event staff. I'm assuming with police and security being defined as police and security here, and I understand you're likely always gonna want a member of your staff there.
Yes.
But maybe not all of your part-time staff. Maybe you're absolutely correct in that maybe they're not the ones to do it, but should we look at an event fee, and that way we're just transferring those costs directly to the applicant? You need to hire this event company, you need to hire, but provide that as a resource to try to alleviate the employee concerns.
Yes.
I mean, I get that concern.
Yeah.
Are the damage to the toilets and the doors and the vents, does this happen frequently? Does this happen? How
Sure.
often does this happen?
Generally, there is some sort of damage after every event. And some of it's very minor. Some of it is not. Cleanup in the parking lot gets a bit monotonous, and there's a lot of that. Broken bottles in the parking lots, beer cans in the parking lot. And staff is very animate about trying to find that stuff because, the park is the park. The next morning, people are rolling in. They don't want to see the beer cans, and they kind of score. They take their flashlights and look down in the woods and try to see what they can, because I can't see they're parking every parking lot you can see, from down at volleyball up to the community center. So they're kind of tracking up to the community center through there, and then the event staff keep trying to keep them inside to keep that number down.
I want citizens to be able to use the space because I believe it belongs to them. But I also feel like we're skirting the edge of maybe going beyond municipal services to provide an event space, I think.
And honestly,
I don't like the idea that you can't use it for other things leading up to it the day of because of setting up. That bothers me.
Of the 12 Kinseys, I probably should have asked Christy before coming in here, but I would guess 11 of them are not Wendell residents. They're from outside the city limits. That's why they're paying that $3,000 fee. So they are not located in the city of Wendell. I know from the past that they haven't.
Can you provide that specifically when we come back? Thank you. All right, any other? Go ahead.
I have a motion if you're ready for it.
We're going to vote tonight? I think we're going to think
Presentation only.
This is presentation only?
only, yeah.
Okay. I was gonna table it
Good
anyway.
job for being ready to roll.
I was gonna table it as well.
That's
what staff will do with this item is we'll take all the comments back from the board, we'll gather up additional presentation materials, and bring back different options related to the different talking points that y'all brought up, and see if there's either policy additions, the original, or no change. But there's no critical timing on this. We just want to start working through the conversation with you on the topic.
One question I had.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I have another comment.
And if you find out, I'd like to have information, like if you find out if it's a certain type of event, that it's always the damage,
Yes.
that might be the one we just eliminate. We don't allow them to rent anymore, and everyone else is fine.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
There's, and we'll also look into the legalities about restricting, because they're not allowing certain people or groups to use a public
Can
facility.
get us into some trouble.
City residents only, or whatever, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Don't we charge a different rate for in town and
Yes,
not?
ma'am.
Do we do that for these rentals as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, all right. All right, you ready to go to 4B? Anything else? All right, item 4B is a presentation of an ordinance to add Chapter 16, Article 1, Section 1615 in the UDO for the naming of town parks, recreation areas, and facilities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The town currently does not have an ordinance or a policy that guides in the regulations, the regulating of naming of parks or recreation facilities. And with the future of parks and recreation growing as fast as we are, in our second park knocking on the door here, we thought it was a good time to bring a park naming policy to the town so we can kind of get the ball rolling on how these names are going to, or how these future parks are going to be named and facilities. So the purpose of the code is to establish a set of standard procedures and guidelines for the naming and renaming of parks and recreation facilities and services that are facilities owned and operated by the town of Wendell. The code will guide name recognition and establish its application process. It is realized that the responsibility for naming town parks, recreational areas, and facilities lies on the Board of Commissioners. The town board will rely on the Parks and Recreation Commission for their input and recommendation for these naming policy. So what we envision is having an application process for any citizen, any person living in the town of Wendell to fill out an application suggesting a name for, say, the new Hollybrook Park property. They would submit that application, and the rec board would go through those applications and would make a recommendation based on the qualifying names and criteria. They would make that recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for the official vote on what the new park name or facility name would be. And the Recreation Board has also looked at this. They're in agreement with this, and I kind of took a look around to see kind of what other recreation departments in the county and the area were doing as far as name a facility. Facility naming rights, and nothing I'm presenting tonight is out of ordinary. It's kind of on par with what our neighbors are doing. And so the objectives is for naming of town parks and recreation areas and facilities. Enhances a sense of community within your town. Ensure the parks and recreation areas are easily identified. Ensure that the names given are consistent with the values and characteristics of the town of Wendell. Assure the quality of the title/name so that it will serve the purpose of the town in a permanent manner. Encourage public participation and input in order to fully represent the best interest of the area affected, which is important, that we want our citizens to feel like they have a voice in what these future facilities are going to be named. And encourage and recognize the dedication of lands, PR donations by individuals or groups. So some of the qualifying names or the criteria that we're proposing would be based on geographical location. The facility is based on something that's nearby, something that's of interest to people, or an outstanding feature of the area, say a certain hill or a river or a type of vegetation that may grow in that area. Commonly recognized historical significance of an event or a person, group, culture, or place. A person, and you'll see in here non-living, and kind of the reason behind non-living is that way you're not naming a facility after someone that's alive, then they go out and do something that's not of what the town considers, you know, an outstanding citizen should be doing, is that you don't have to go back and rename a facility, because you'll see later on that renaming a facility is highly discouraged because it does create confusion in a community. And so you'll see non-living, and that's not odd for what I'm presenting. All the other towns and cities that I'll talk to have that non-living in there, or group who are significantly contributed to the acquisition or the development of the park or facility. An individual, also non-living, who provided an exceptional service in the interest of the park system or the community as a whole. A person living whose contribute or significant gift is of extraordinary nature, and we left significant kind of open-ended for the board to decide what is a significant amount. Naming may be considered based on the provision of significant funding that underwrites the cost of a renovation or construction of town property. Individuals that donate other parks or facilities or the land to the town can request naming rights, which are subject to the approval of the town board. The exclusions being naming associations with tobacco, alcohol, contraceptives, religious organizations, political candidates, or adjudicated felons of prohibited. Also, exclusions are naming. Naming should be inclusive and in no way should exclude or intimidate any persons. Section 5 is renaming. The intent of renaming is for permanent recognition. The renaming of parks and facilities is strongly discouraged. It is recommended that efforts to change a name be subject to the most crucial examination, so as not to diminish the original justification for the naming or discount the value of the prior contributions. So the last section would be kind of the procedure of how these would go. Staff, resident, community leaders, or organizations interested in proposing a name for the park, recreational area, or facility must submit written recommendations, petitions, etc., for presenting to the Parks and Recreation Director for consideration by the Parks and Recreation Commission. Recommendations need to be described in detail why the candidate merits such recognition. When naming after a person or persons, written documentation of approval by the next of kin to be honored is requested as part of the proposal. We want to make sure that the family wants that right. Some people may not feel that would have been in that person's best interest. Parks and Recreation Director shall forward naming recommendations to the Recreation Commission. That would be all applications would go to them, as long as they don't have any of our exclusions. The Parks and Rec Commission shall consider all requests and submit a formal recommendation of naming deemed worthy of consideration to the town board. Town board will allow for a public input and comment section on the night of a naming, and the town board has final approval and may reject naming or the renaming request. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board? Yes.
I understand at first blush saying tobacco, alcohol, contraceptives seems a little weird one to throw in there, but, you know, that sort of list there. To me, we have a tobacco leaf on our town seal. Wendell is the largest tobacco market around for a long time. A lot of the historically significant buildings in town, Harvest Festival is timed to the tobacco harvest. And so when we say we're not going to name it after tobacco, is that Marlboro presents these swing sets, or is that we wouldn't even consider, you know, last name farm park? Because most of the open space that surrounds town, practically all of it, was farmland at one point, and the vast majority of that farmland was used for growing tobacco. And the historical family names around here have a deep connection to tobacco. This town has a deep connection to tobacco.
No, this is more geared towards, it would not be our RJR Athletic Park.
I would like to see it perhaps a little more delineated to that then, because you could make the argument that just a family last name, since they would be so associated with growing tobacco or having a tobacco warehouse or something like that.
Point.
I would like to make sure that we're not eliminating that part of our history.
I have a quick question too. How are we gonna handle it? You said donation of land. What if the donation of land is given to, fulfill the open space requirement in a development? So technically.
That's not a donation,
Okay, so that would not be a donation. So I just wanna make sure we don't wind up with a park in the name of every developer that comes to Wendell or builder or something like that. I just wanna make sure. Okay, thank you very much.
I'll just quickly piggyback on what, Commissioner Boyette said. I understand the intent in 4. I'm not opposed to 4B. Certainly, we want to be inclusive. We don't want any intimidation. I think that 6 pretty much flushes out anything that's going to be an issue in 4A. You know, we have all the steps in place to make sure that we go about it the right way before we make a decision on it. So, I mean, I just, again, tobacco leaves on the seal. So, I think 6 sort of takes care of 4A in my mind.
I can go back and I can play with that word in a little bit and make that more.
Or eliminate, I agree. Going through the process, of the other rules in the procedure outlined in number 6, you're not gonna get most of those things, they're not gonna make it through the procedure. And so having a specific rule for them at this point, perhaps unnecessary.
Anything else from the board? Okay, thank you. We'll move into our public hearings. The public comment process was provided in advance of the meeting tonight. Public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the clerk, attend in person, or submit a request to participate via calling in. Our first one is item 5A, a public hearing to rezone approximately .791 acres from R2 to R3 conditional district to construct 2 homes on East Academy Street. And we're going to hear from Planner 2, Janine Inguera.
Good evening, Mayor
Good evening.
and Commissioners. The applicant is requesting to rezone the parcel of almost an acre, that's .791, to create 2 additional lots located adjacent to the existing Pepper Point neighborhood at the intersection of Chaplin Street and East Academy Street from Residential 2 to Residential 3 Conditional District. The intent is to build 2 single-family homes using the same building plans as 2 existing homes in Pepper Point. The address is 314 Chaplin Street, and it is within the city limits, single-family residential, property owner Ford Associates, and the surrounding districts are R2 and R3 conditional district. The request for Residential 3 conditional district has a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. The applicant is proposing the minimum lot sizes of 10,000 square feet, and the applicant's proposal meets all setbacks within the R3 zoning district for single-family homes. The UDO requires a lot width of 60 feet. The applicant is proposing 72 feet lot width or greater. The UDO requires 100-foot lot depth. The applicant is proposing 95-foot lot depth on lot 1 and 100 feet lot depth on lots 2 and 3. The R3 requirement for the front setback is 25 feet, and that is also proposed by the applicant. Side setback, 20% of the lot width combined in the UDO and also is proposed by the applicant, 20% of lot width combined. The rear setback is 20 feet and also proposed by the applicant, 20 feet. The applicant is proposing that Lot 1 have the lot depth of 95 feet along Academy Street rather than the 100 feet requirement, and that is in condition number 3. This is the overall site plan. And you can see the existing, this is the existing home, and then these are the 2 additional lots, Lot 2 and Lot 3. The proposed zoning conditions are to rezone the existing lot that's being divided into 3 lots from R2 to R3 conditional district. Both lots 2 and 3, the new lots, shall have lot sizes greater than 10,000 square feet each. All dimensions for width and depth for each of these 2 lots meet the required minimums. North side of Lot 1, existing house lot to have a depth less than the required 100-foot minimum. The total lot size of Lot 1 is proposed to be greater than 13,000 square feet, with the south property line lot depth greater than 100 feet. Houses to be built on lots 2 and 3 will be same already found in Pepper Point. Pictures included with this request are of existing homes in Pepper Point that are proposed to be built on lots 2 and 3. And these are the pictures of the homes that are existing that will be built on lots 2 and 3. Public utilities, development of this site will require connection to city water and sewer, which is available along East Academy Street. The property is within our town limits. An environmental applicant will need to obtain stormwater and sedimentation erosion control permits from Wake County Environmental Services before any site work can commence. The proposed development plan will need to meet the requirements of the UDO. Wake County provides stormwater, sedimentation, and erosion control services for the town of Wendell. The proposed plans show the installation of stormwater infrastructure that will connect to the existing system. Buffers are not required between the R2 and R3 zoning districts. However, the applicant will need to provide rear yard plantings along the property line between the new lots and those existing along Maddox Street. The rear yard plantings require 1 tree and 1 shrub per 15 feet. Since this development is not classified as a major subdivision, no open space dedication is required, and there are no streams or wetlands on or adjacent to this property. For transportation, the UDO section 16.11 requires a TIA for a development plan that exceeds 100 peak hours per day, but this does not meet that threshold. East Academy Street is considered a local street with a 52-foot right-of-way, and it also requires that curb and gutter, sidewalk, and street trees be planted. The applicant's plans show the dedicated right-of-way and all the improvements, including curb and gutter, sidewalk, and street trees. And there is only 1 phase for this proposed development. The Wendell Comprehensive Plan defines this area as S6 infill redevelopment area within a village town center. The infill redevelopment area is an existing urban or suburban development with a fairly dense street grid. These areas are already urbanized and well-served with infrastructure and access to service and amenities. Because these areas are already well provided for in terms of urban services, they are the most efficient and most attractive areas for redevelopment of underutilized sites or infill of vacant parcels. Appropriate uses are neighborhoods, downtown, single-family and multifamily residential, commercial uses, retail and office, civic uses, and light industrial uses. The Village Town Center, it's also part of the Village Town Center, which is mixed-use activity centers with employment and commercial uses to attract people from beyond the immediate neighborhoods from surrounding communities. These centers are also logical locations for highest concentrations of residential and employment in the planned area. The proposed development of 2 single-family homes is consistent with the identified use types within the S6 sector and Village Town Center of the Town of Wendell Comprehensive Plan. At their September 20th meeting, the Planning Board voted 5-0 on the motion to approve the requested zoning district. And the Statement of Comprehensive Plan consistency and reasonableness is that the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the uses outlined in the Wendell Comprehensive Land Use Plan for the S6 sector and is reasonable in that it supports principle number 6, provide for a range in housing opportunities, including upscale housing, senior housing, and downtown living choices. The Technical Review Committee has completed their review of the applicant's master plan, and the applicant has made corrections based on their comments. Additional review would occur upon submittal of construction drawings, and the proposed development plan is consistent, sorry. Okay. With the Wendell Comprehensive Land Use Plan, and staff recommends approval of the conditional district rezoning. And I can answer any questions that you might have. And also, the applicant's representative, Stephen Sanderson, is here if you would like to ask him any questions as well.
Okay, great. Let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board? All right. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
Good evening. I'm Stephen Sanderson with Sanderson Engineering. I agree the plan that's been presented. The presentation speaks for itself. It is consistent with the Wendell's comprehensive plan, and I think it's a great use of the property to bring 2 more houses to Pepper Point and bring 2 more families to Wendell. But I don't want to expound on it just to waste your time. If you have a specific question, I'll be happy to answer for you.
Are there any questions?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
A concern I have in this area is particular with the, some of the stormwater. How exactly are they proposing to tie into the stormwater there?
That will be determined. We had a discussion of that during the TRC, and when construction drawings are done, we will have to make that happen. And quite honestly, that's just what I do. That's what engineers do, is solve problems, and that's really the biggest problem that we have with making that, but it won't be a problem to do. It's just a matter of designing it to work.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
This is a question for Mr. Sanderson. I appreciate, you're the engineer, you draw what you're asked to draw, and I certainly appreciate the thoroughness of what I'm seeing. I'll just say from a gut reaction in riding by to look at it, I have a hard time envisioning being able to fit 2 houses in that space. It seems very tight to me, and
I'm certain that you have been through all of Pepper Point and have seen every house that's in there. These lots that we are creating are larger than several of the lots that are in Pepper Point, and the houses are exactly 2 of the houses that are there. So to answer that question, the 2 homes that we are going to build are on lots that are smaller than these, and they fit perfectly into that subdivision.
And I appreciate that. And like I said, not so much a question as my gut reaction when I rode by is it just doesn't, it seems like a very tight piece. I also think that if these homes were, for instance, being built at the other end of the street where there's open space and it naturally fits the back of Pepper Point, I mean, like, I'd love to see Pepper Point expand. I don't know that this particular tract is, in keeping the existing home there, I'd always assumed when riding by that I would see an additional home behind that home one day. I had never assumed that I would see 2 additional homes there. Just not really a question, I guess, more of a comment.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
What is the, actual setback of the side? I know it's 20%.
One lot is, I think one lot is 72 feet, and the other one is 73, so 14.6 and 4 total, so it would be 7.2 and 7.3. That's recalling from a couple of months ago when I drew that up, but that's essentially what it is.
So approximately 7 feet on each side.
Yes, which is greater than what is required in R3.
And what would you say, the homes in Pepper Point, they seem to be spaced out. Is it a wider, is it a deeper lot?
No, these lots are wider than what is there. These are 72 and 73 feet wide. The minimum lot allowed in Pepper Point, and what several of them are 60 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Yeah, just to clarify on that, the setback is 7.3 on one, 7.2 on the other. The houses sit additional feet off of that. If you look at the site plan, there's a dashed line around the lot. That is the required minimum setbacks, but where the houses are actually located are additional feet. Pepper Point's covenants say 10-foot side setback. But when you look at this proposal, the minimum has to be 7.2 and 7.3, and the homes start multiple feet after that. So it's in very similar style to Pepper Point.
Anything else from the board? Yeah.
My concern is actually that they do fit, and I'll tell you why. That block and a couple of adjacent blocks were all divided into rather large lots, and I'm slightly concerned about the precedent this sets for subdividing any lot on the block. I mean, this one obviously came up because it's a vacant lot, but there was a very interesting article in the News and Observer this past week about gentrification and losing affordability in downtown areas. And while it focused on Raleigh, we have some of those same problems around here. My concern, and this isn't concern of the engineering or anything like that, but it's that the economic pressures that are going to be put on single-family homeowners on large lots that perhaps developers see as ripe for subdividing into 2 lots or 3 and building in that additional density in blocks where it doesn't currently exist. That's my concern. It's only going to drive some of the affordable housing that is around there, and I say affordable housing not in the legal definition of it, but you know, the homes in there are a little bit older. It's not new construction. It's established construction, and I'm concerned about the development pressure when infill starts to go knocking on, you know, houses built back in the 60s and 70s and everything else. And so that's my concern, is the precedent it sets for subdividing these lots in these already established neighborhoods.
Anything else from the board? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Okay. No other questions from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing. How do y'all want to proceed?
I just wanted to say something else too. I appreciate what Mr. Ford is trying to keep some continuity here with the development. With the home style, I agree with a little bit of what Commissioner Boyett said, not so much to that level of intellectual detail, but just with, if I just look at this as from an aerial view, as I have, and the homes behind it, the homes in front of it, they fit in that R2, they are R2. There's an empty lot right next to this where it's primed to be built on, without disturbing trees and anything else that's in that area. I have concerns with the stormwater, that culvert that runs, just to the right of that and under the road, and it backs up, it's quite notorious for that, and I know the town has taken some efforts to try to work on that, but that is a concern I have without having that resolved. To me, it fits as R2, it is a lot that is barren, is ready to be built on. At this time, I would prefer we just leave it as a R2, versus rezoning to R3. When neighborhoods are built and they put them in a certain density, they can plan for it. To me, this is taking a spot that was not in a master plan development and trying to fit more stuff on there too, and that concerns me a little bit as someone who lives there, and as someone who's just looking out for, as Commissioner Boyd alluded to, other lots in town going forward. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just say briefly, I walked that property, I don't know how long ago, maybe a year ago, prior to the transaction. And I'll say, looking at it, it's easy. I mean, it's easy to look at and say, hey, there's the smart move there is to buy the property, carve off a lot, and build a house, or sell it to somebody else to build a house. And totally reasonable to do that. Have no issue with that. I do respect hey, we're building the exact same floor plans that are literally a 60-degree wedge away. There's your golf term for the night. But, if I'm trying to sell a request for a rezone, I'm probably doing the same thing. Hey, we're building the same house, similar lot, et cetera, but, at the end of the day, there's a home there, there's a lot behind it. Is that in keeping with what else is going on there? I always like to explain, why I'm voting against something. There's your spoiler. But I think it's okay to have a house behind it. I'm just not okay with two. And that's where I am, so.
Anyone else? All right, need a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed conditional district request and adopt the attached ordinance.
All right, we have a motion to approve the conditional request and adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Nay.
Let's show of hands. All in favor? All right, anyone opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that fails. All right.
Thank you.
Item 5B is a public hearing on the zoning text amendment to section 11.10, street lighting, and appendix E of the official zoning map for the UDO. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and Council. The request tonight is to hold a public hearing and consider adopting the attached ordinance. Section 11.10, street lighting, currently our UDO says the minimum average, which is always interesting to use the words minimum and average together, confuses a lot of people. Street light spacing for pedestrian, where required in our downtown district, is 150 feet. Current street lights are not 150 feet spaced apart. Our new street lights that we've been using in Campen and in potentially other places downtown You'll see the image from Duke, and currently we have a 300-foot average, minimum average for residential. What we have been noticing as staff is if streets are well-designed and not a lot of cul-de-sacs, getting that average of 300 is difficult because we want streetlights at intersections and we want them also spaced throughout the neighborhood. And if something's designed really well from a street network, reaching that 300 minimum average has been challenging for some developers, and we have to spend a lot of time moving potential streetlights to try to hit that 300 mark. As a result, the downtown streetlight in Campen, we've been using a newer streetlight from Duke. The current ones down, you'll see on Main Street, are older. Duke, when you install new lights, majority of them are going to be leased instead of owning. Once they're leased, then the maintenance goes on Duke to repair them. So if someone hits it with their car downtown, Campen, Duke comes out and fixes. If someone hits it on Main Street, we're responsible because we own those. And so we're switching to a leased light, much cheaper on our maintenance. The street light we've chosen, you'll see in one of the slide coming up, the light goes out about 40, 45 feet in each direction. And so when our UDO says 150 feet, and then we have street lights that we want to use show much less than that, it's time for a UDO text amendment. So that's what we're proposing. We're proposing using for downtown a 75 to 85 foot average, and then for residential, regular streetlights, doing an average of 275 to 325, which gives us some range on some of those well-designed neighborhoods. So we looked at some other municipalities in our region and outside of our region. When you talk downtown lighting, you have to find towns that actually have downtown lighting that's different, which can be challenging. Not all of our municipalities in Wake County, I would say, have downtowns like we do. And so, for example, Zebulon, they use a light level and no distance, but they don't have the historic street lights or the pedestrian lights that we do. Holly Springs has decorative lighting, but their distance is different. Wake Forest uses kind of lighting levels. Apex clearly says 300 for residential, and they leave it up to proposals in their downtown. Hillsborough is 175. Asheville is kind of more pedestrian in their commercial areas of 50 to 85 feet. And then we also looked at Indian Trail, which is outside of Charlotte. They do 200 feet, but the lights need to be a lower wattage. And so, variety of issues. The Duke light that we've been using downtown is your traditional open LED. And being that it's a newer light, it does shine differently than the existing lights downtown. And the new lights are, as I said, are leased. We do pay a monthly fee for service and lighting. And so we're expecting to continue using this light downtown. It's modern, it's energy efficient, it shines off a lot more light. So technically, as we redo Main Street, we'll need less lighting because the new lights will have a better shine distance. So proposed UDO amendments, we're getting rid of the word minimum and using just an average street light spacing. The minimum street lighting meant that you had to hit 300 or 301 to get above that minimum average. We thought a range is reasonable. The majority of towns in our region use somewhere around that 300 feet mark for residential streets. The DMX, we're proposing to go from 150 to 75 to 85 range. We're also adding the clause in there, the zoning administrator has the ability to approve lighting plan based on existing conditions, public safety, and lighting designs by Duke. All of our lighting gets designed by Duke, so we get a planometric of where those lights will actually be spaced and the ratio of lighting. Second part of this amendment is official zoning map that's in the UDO. Every time we do a rezoning, we would need to amend this map. The last time it was amended was in 2017. So the zoning map in our UDO is way outdated. We're actually proposing to take that out of the UDO. We're required by 160D to have the map on file and available for the public, so that's what we've been doing. But to have that UDO map or the zoning map in the UDO means every time we do a rezoning, we would need to update that map in the UDO as well. And it's a duplicate. The map is available on the web. It's available here at Town Hall. So we're proposing to remove that map from the UDO. At the September 20th Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board voted 6-0 in favor of sorry, it says requested conditional district, the text amendment. Under Statement of Plan Consistency, it does protect and enhance the strengths of downtown core, making the area a place to experience. Also, key principle 9, make development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. And so staff is recommending approval, and we can field any questions that you may have.
Okay, let's open the public hearing, and are there any questions from the board?
Brian, I have some. I have a couple questions. I know we've done a lot of discussion on this in the past couple months and so, and thank you for all your work and kind of diving into this. When Duke comes back with the lighting plan for us, how much can we do with that? What can we do with that plan? Do we have to follow it to a T? Do we have some flexibility? What's the next step?
There's flexibility in it. If there's questions on how much lighting, or if it looks like there's not enough lighting, we have in the past consulted Duke to provide more detail. We had that, so for example, in Tree Light in Wendell Falls, they're using a decorative light, and they have to get the lighting policy requires they come to us and show us a lighting plan. And during our TRC review of that lighting plan, we confirmed with Duke that there were spaces that it was a little not enough light, and so we actually had them add 2 lights. If the lighting plan, we would just consult Duke if we had questions. They're the lighting experts and can give us kind of the expected shine. But that light that we're using is good about 40 feet out in each direction. And then if there could be landscaping in the way, that maybe it doesn't go out all 40 feet. And that's something we'll have to take into account with existing conditions. And then also if there's a public safety issue we want to address.
Another question, and I don't know how the other commissioners feel. I haven't really spoken to them about this one, but the lighting that we have, I think downtown right now, I think is a very unique style lighting, as you referred to earlier. At least on the Main Street kind of section there, that you know, 3rd Street up to 4th Street. As these lights come in, how many lights that we're proposing here will be looking to provide the same coverage as of what we have there now?
So the existing downtown lights on Main Street and 3rd Street are city-owned. The electrical system that feeds those lights are tied up in the root balls with our street trees right now. When you get the ADA report at your next meeting or a meeting shortly thereafter, you're going to hear about some major sidewalk improvements that we're going to need to do downtown. So what we're headed towards is a downtown streetscape remodel and redesign, and that would have a consistency of design through the downtown district. There's very few lots that would be developing and have to meet the requirement. All of these street lights in the DMX, the downtown district, are town leased or town owned, and so the taxpayer pays the bill for that electricity. So we want to make sure that we have proper spacing of lights to where it's safe for our pedestrian and reduces risk, and provides a safe environment for people downtown after hours. But we also don't want to overload lights. So our current lights are designed with non-LED design and spaced closer than required. So the town is paying more in electricity right now than it has to for the light design. When you're looking at a design and talking with our planning consultants with the comprehensive plan, you have street tree, street light, street tree, street light. If you talk to Public Works and maintaining street, when you get lighting complaints, it's usually a function of your street trees need to be trimmed back to their normal size. It's a tree trimming exercise to allow light to go to its proper length. So all of that is a way of saying we need to design a downtown streetscape that accomplishes these diverse needs, and in doing that, consistency of design, that the Camping Street light is a modern design. It's a lease product. There's only certain products that Duke leases. It matches a historic streetscape character that's consistent with our current lights. And so we're able to extend that, but we'll want to make sure that they're spaced as described by staff to have the proper lighting up to the point you have the next street tree, and then the other light comes to that from the other side. So it's, what's there now is dated and is going to have to be replaced in the next few years because of ADA wiring and cost efficiency of those lights.
And it's key to know when we replace it, it won't be that same light's not available. You only have so many options from Duke for leasing or to buy, but that same light that we have no longer exists in their system.
It's a exception to have a private redevelopment like your project where we're asking actually to put in lights. We don't want you to follow the current UDO of that spacing. We're asking Duke what's the appropriate spacing of the model of light that we anticipate using throughout downtown so that the public lights being replaced in coordination with your project are done in a manner that's going to be consistent with the whole of downtown to match that product. And the streetscape design would incorporate that throughout that block.
And staff feels like with what's been proposed tonight, this allows us for enough, I'll just say flexibility to be able to handle any future ADA sidewalk streetscape plans that come forward in the next couple of years and be able to still accommodate this charm we have in our town, but also being efficient with taxpayer dollars and town money and all that stuff too, correct?
Correct. And
okay.
if something in a streetscape plan that comes to this board for approval in the future deviates from that, it would be accompanied with the appropriate text amendment to
okay. All right, thank you.
Isn't that what the reason for the phase distances that you mentioned before, or the variable distance to kind of, is to accommodate?
To give us a range.
Right.
Because when we had in there minimum average was 300, we ran into it a lot recently in some residential streets that are designed, the cul-de-sacs that, go forever,
right.
They could easily meet the 300 because they could
right.
space them out. The well-designed kind of grid or more connectivity
mm-hmm.
was a challenge in some neighborhoods where we had one recently that came in at like 294, and I was like, either you got to get a variance or we got to hit the 300 mark.
Yeah.
And it was really challenging because it meant moving multiple lights in their
yeah.
development, and none of it wasn't bad at 294.
That's
but with that
asking.
minimum average
yeah.
is a challenge when
and
you didn't.
And also, when in the downtown where the block stops, it may be that it would be odd to put a light in one place, and we might
mm-hmm.
could make it have a more aesthetic appearance if we had
mm-hmm.
some flexibility.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yep.
All right, any other questions from the board, comments? All right, there's no citizens in here now, so I assume there's no citizens that want to comment. We'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I have a motion.
Yep.
Motion to approve the zoning text amendments to section 1110 street lighting and appendix E official zoning map of the UDO and adopt the attached ordinance.
So thank you. We have a motion to approve the zoning text amendments and adopt the ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. We'll move into our administrative items now. Item 6A is the approval of fiscal year 2022 Wendell resurfacing contract with ST Wooten Corporation in the amount of $796,265.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and...
Good evening, Mr. Bray.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Board of Commissioners. I'm excited to bring the presentation for the Wendell resurfacing project for FY22 before you tonight. The town commissioned our streets engineer, Withers Ravenel, to conduct a street condition survey back in 2020. This survey outlined a 5-year maintenance plan. The contract you have before you identifies all areas detailed in year 1, except for a section of Holly Point Drive that will be moved likely to year 2 due to its condition being worse than originally assessed. This allowed us to stay close to our estimated budget and to treat like condition roadways at the same time. So we wanted to move it to a place where we'll likely have more roads in that condition. Sorry about that. This next is Paver Analytics. You might remember this model from the pavement condition survey from 2020. And on that, you have the vertical y-axis and then the horizontal x-axis. And an explanation of that is this illustrates the battle that the town is fighting. On the y-axis, we have the condition rating, which 100 is a newly surfaced roadway, and 0 is a failed roadway. And the x-axis represents time. In this case, we're looking at an average life expectancy for this model of 15 to 20 years. In pavement, there is a point at which the pavement condition begins a very quick descent called the critical PCI, Pavement Condition Index. So that significant drop in condition accounts for a small percentage of that pavement's life. There also ends up being a significant cost involved to repair or replace that asphalt, sometimes 5 to 10 times the cost to apply a preventative measure when the asphalt condition is satisfactory or fair. So as a refresher with it, it details how it's in the town's interest to conduct maintenance and repair as early as possible due to cost. So roads that require full replacement are many times the cost to remediate. The area on Holly Point Drive that was removed from year 1 is an example of that. It is beyond a partial mill and repaving. It'll require a full depth remediation in the future budget years. So our goal through the first 5 years is to address all roadways that can be repaired by either microfill or slurry application or by a milling and repave. So on there where you see they're using $1 for the model, that's rehabilitation. So that correlates with the micro slurry application. So if you have a roadway that is in that small window where it begins to decline, that's where you can hopefully get out there and do an application of the micro slurry and extend the life of that pavement. And then the next best is a milling and repave. So you're taking out part of the roadway and then putting new asphalt back onto it. And you'll see there it's at the bottom of that window, and that costs 4 to 5 times as much, but it's still a significant savings over a full depth remediation. Because at that point you have to take out the whole road, and then you have to redo the stone course, the intermediate course of asphalt, and then the top coat. And it's, at least twice as much. And in this year, what we're trying to do is the rehabilitation or the milling in the asphalt. So the results from the study detailed that at that time, there was 32.5 miles of roadway within the town. Our average score was 74. Over 40% of our roadway network falls into the good category. At the time of this, it was approximately a 16% increase in our network mileage in the last 4 years. And over 3/4 of our roadway network is above the critical PCI of 55, which is pretty good. And then 25% of our roadway network needs significant repairs and rebuilding. And on this slide here, you'll see the roads that are set for micro surfacing. And so I wanted to explain about the micro surfacing a little bit. Again, that is the most cost-effective way to catch a road when it is just beginning to decline. So it's an economical alternative to asphalt replacement when the asphalt is not already too far gone, and it's not degraded too far. It's a polymer-modified, cold-mix paving system that has created an advanced and eco-friendly surface treatment. This method of asphalt maintenance is highly recommended by our engineer of record, Withers Ravenel, to preserve and extend the life of asphalt. Then Micro's ability to be placed in layers makes it effective at correcting a broad range of surface issues on residential streets, highways. They use it on airfields as well. Microsurfacing is appropriate for Wendell due to its ideal for high volume secondary routes as well as primary roads. And the benefits of it, it's very good at correcting rutting and other irregularities. It dries rapidly to allow traffic to resume. So it doesn't cause as much of an inconvenience, certainly quicker. And it may be applied at night. And again, these are the roads that are set for microsurfacing.
I hate to interrupt you. One quick question
Yes,
about
sir.
at least one of those streets, Douglas Falls Drive, that is a Wendell Falls street. Are we seeing this sort of degradation with streets in Wendell Falls already? I realize this is the very start of the degradation, but
Yes, sir.
I would expect it a little bit longer out of that. Is that due to construction traffic or?
Likely so.
Okay.
That was the assessment as it came from our engineer of record as they came into this road right now to prevent it from, getting any worse. This is the time to hit it with the micro resurfacing.
Okay.
Is a very tiny section when you first turn in, first left there. So I think that it's not seen a whole lot of love over the years, whereas the rest of the neighborhood with the top coat and whatnot, that part has not been done.
This next slide, those are the roads that will actually be milled and repaved. So to explain a little bit on that, the depth of paving is definitely going to vary by roadway, but all roads will be receiving at least 1.5 inches of new asphalt. However, due to poor conditions, some of them we are going to have to go deeper, up to 4 total inches, and some that'll be part of 2 overlays. So you'll likely have 2 to 2.5 inches of intermediate asphalt course, and then a further 1.5 inches of surface course asphalt. And then this project also includes the manholes, water valve structure adjustments, as well as small portions of curb and gutter repair. If there's a bad section of curb and gutter, we certainly want to address that while we're there. And items such as thermoplastic pavement marking for the lines. If there was a line already there, there will be a line that will be replaced as part of this project as well. That way we have a nice, complete, finished product at the completion of the project. ST Wooten submitted the lowest bid out of our 4 participants, and I can actually take you to the actual agenda item here on the next slide. And the town received and publicly opened bids for the FY 2022 resurfacing contract. The apparent low bid was submitted by ST Wooten Corporation in the amount of $796,265. The bid documents and process were developed by the town engineer of record, Withers Ravenel. All responses were reviewed and sealed by the town engineer. The roads included for bid were derived by an evaluation of roads on the year 1 list in the pavement condition survey reported to the board in fall 2020 and included in the FY 2022 budget. Only 1 street segment was moved to year 2 as repairs needed exceeded maintenance criteria, and the segment now needs to be resurfaced. The FY 2022 appropriated $766,000 for street maintenance and resurfacing. The low bid approximately $30,000 over budget. The difference will be made in line item adjustments in the end of year budget amendment, and staff recommends proceeding with the received bid and project list due to escalating materials cost. We ask that the contract be awarded to ST Wooten and authorization for the town manager to sign the contract.
Any questions from Mr. Bray?
Madam Mayor, I have a motion if you're ready for it.
I'm ready.
Motion to award the bid for the fiscal year 2022 resurfacing project to ST Wooten and authorize the town manager to sign the contract.
All right, we have a motion to award the bid for the fiscal year 2022 resurfacing project to ST Wooten and authorize the town manager to sign the contract. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, y'all. 6B is a request for temporary street closure for the 2021 Wendell Wonderland in downtown Wendell for Friday, December 3rd. Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners again. I'm here seeking approval for temporary street closure for some requested streets for downtown for the 2021 Wendell Wonderland event, which is scheduled for Friday, December the 3rd. The town of Wendell will host the Wendell Wonderland event downtown as we usually do. The special events necessitate the closure of First Street at 12:45. That would be nearing the end of the lunch hour downtown, and time to get those cars off the streets so that we can start staging for the events on Main. We'd also be asking for Cypress and 3rd Street to be closed approximately 3 to 4 o'clock, depending on the amount of traffic there. And we're hoping to have all streets reopened by 11 o'clock at the latest, with most of those streets opening earlier as the crowd tampers out at 9 o'clock. The safety of those attending the event necessitates the temporary closure of those public streets just to minimize the conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians with the Wendell Wonderland event being so spread out between Main Street and J. Ashley Wall Town Square. People get a false sense of security during these events that they can just kind of walk out into the street whenever they like. And so we're just trying to make sure that we don't have any conflicts in those areas. And I'll also mention that those are also the same roads as we've done in the past. There's no additional street closures than anything we've done prior to this event.
All right. Any questions from Mr. Pulaski? All right, go.
Madam Mayor, motion to approve the temporary closure of the requested downtown streets for the 2021 Wendell Wonderland special event on Friday, December 3, 2021.
All right, we have a motion to approve the temporary street closure. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to item 6C, Town of Wendell Policy 116, Amendment for the Street Lighting Policy.
Yep. Good
Mr.
evening,
Coates.
Mayor and Council. This item is related to the UDO amendment that you just saw. We also have Policy 116, which includes some of the UDO language in the street lighting policy that also explains a lot more details about developments and how they pay for street lights and the process if they'd like to use a non-standard light, that they have to pay additional fees and things like that. Because we changed the language in the UDO, we're actually proposing to amend the street lighting policy to make reference to the UDO, but take out those requirements of 300 feet. And the lighting policy didn't have anything on the DMX and 150. It has other things. So the proposal is just to amend the light policy so that if we change the UDO requirements, we don't also have to change the lighting policy. The lighting policy addresses how development chooses lights and how they pay for them, and it doesn't need to duplicate the UDO. So we're just proposing to clean up the lighting policy just a little bit, take out a few things.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Coates?
Madam Mayor?
Yep.
Motion to approve amendments made to the current street lighting policy number 116, granting a new effective date of October 11, 2021.
All right. We have a motion to approve the new street lighting policy. I don't have my place where I had it written down. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 6D is a decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the request for qualifications numbers 1 through 21 for South Main Street Greenway Multi-Use Path Professional Design Services. Mr. Collins.
Good evening, Board. Another exciting project. You can tell we've been going from planning to implementation the last couple meetings, and appreciate y'all working through these topics. This one is selecting a design firm for designing our first public greenway in Wendell, South Main Street extension area of Wendell. State law requires us to go through an RFQ process to select engineering and design services such as this. So staff followed the state process with the RFQ. We received 11 qualified applicants. Staff committee reviewed the different packets, narrowed it down to 5 finalists that you see listed in your packet: McAdams, Site Collaborative, AMT, Stewart, and McGill. And so staff is requesting authority to negotiate a contract. What you would do in this process is I would negotiate a contract with McAdams, the number one ranked firm. If I'm unable to negotiate a contract, I'd move to the second qualified firm, and so far down the list through the top 5. In this case, this is a budgeted item within our budget, $75,000 in our budget, and it provides for the Greenway to be designed this fiscal year, and we'd start moving towards construction and grant writing in FY23. So construction FY23, perhaps into '24, depending on the complexity of the project in coordination with other development that may be happening adjoining. Happy to answer any questions the board may have from the packet materials.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
motion to accept the rankings for RFQ 1 through 21 and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for professional design services for the South Main Street Greenway project.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept the rankings for RFQ 1 through 21 and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for professional design services for the South Main Street Greenway project. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 7, other business. Item 7A is update on board committees by town board members. First, Campo. We had an additional meeting in Campo this month, and we actually are having a retreat as well. Campo is really going hard right now. This was a joint meeting of the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which we are a member of, and the Durham Chapel Hill Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Organization. And essentially, it was a briefing to learn about projects that are going on in both areas, both regions, and how they may potentially impact each other to ensure continuity and ease as people pass from one area to the other as we're becoming a more busy, connected region. It was interesting to hear what other people nearby are doing in their communities, much like what we're doing here. So that was the purpose of that. The next one is the Wendell Fire Department Board of Directors, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Fire Department Board of Directors met this past Thursday evening and received our audit from the previous year. The audit came back as normal, which was without any issues. We also discussed, and as we talk about planning, and I hear in questions sometimes about response times or other things, one of the things the fire department's looking into that would be signalization of the lights, so that as the community continues to grow, specifically like Station 3, they'll start there, looking at, so Commissioner Boyette can magically make the light change as he is attempting to cross traffic there. And looking forward to, there'll be some updates to our UDO that we'll need to make going forward, and some other ideas there, but glad to have the fire department taking the lead on that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, we'll move into our commissioners' comments and stay with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, ma'am. There's a ton going on right now, but I want to thank town staff, chamber staff, and everyone that put a lot of hard work into a really awesome Harvest Festival. Specifically, I think P.D. Edwards grabbed this one by the horns this year and worked quite hard to bring the Harvest Festival back. It was great to be out there, and certainly a very enjoyable event. Obviously, lots of other events coming up, and I'm sure others will catch those. I wanted to highlight one thing kind of quickly tonight, and that's the, I guess, thank my fellow commissioners for developing a plan, working the plan, funding the plan, and sticking to these plans. The resurfacing, there was a lot of things that happened tonight. The resurfacing plan, or the awarding of that contract, the Greenway that's actually becoming a reality now. Some of these things that used to be like a historic lift, or I know finance staff can say that we would point during the budget to like the one big thing that we did, and we're doing a lot of things now, that used to be, I guess, more sporadic or harder to achieve. It's nice to know now that when things are coming in and kind of know predictably, 2 years out, we're going after this, and 3 years out, we're going after that. I will say, the manager said when he first came here, please do not put something on a plan that you do not want to happen. And I thought that was fodder then, and I may have even thought it for a while after that. It's not. I appreciate the fact that the boards work together to come up with plans, and the staff works diligently to bring those plans to reality. It's really cool to see. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll echo Commissioner Jordan's comments to town staff and the chamber for their hard work doing the public works. I know it was a long day for many of the people, and they were on their feet all day long, so thank you so much. Had a point here. The Greenway topic is something I was excited about. I still have this vision, and even when I was serving my Parks and Rec Commission, of having, even up, Edgemont, Road, coming down through main part of town, going to Wendell Falls, having all these areas connected by greenways is still, I think, a beautiful vision of mine of having this. And so, any little small piece that we can get, Greenway, Main Street connector, I love it. So I'm as excited. Maybe I need that. Maybe we start asking for more than if we put things, right? So, but that's all I had. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Commissioner Boyette?
Yes, I'd also like to say that myself and my family, we thoroughly enjoyed Harvest Festival. Glad to see such an expansive event this year, and thought it went off really well. And a big thanks to everybody that helped put it on, the chamber, the town. 8 years ago, at this time of year, myself, Dr. Lutz, and the then commissioner, we were locked in a tight battle, for election. No, I joke, there were only 3 of us running for 3 spots, and I don't think any of us even bought a single sign. The times have obviously changed, but even more importantly than 8 years ago, at least in my life, 7 years ago on today's date, I got married to a woman who obviously could look past the fact that she was marrying a politician. And so I appreciate her for that. A lot of things have changed. I look out at town staff, and there aren't very many originals from 8 years ago, but I see you. And the new people that have come on, we appreciate everything you brought to this town. We really do. I just wanted to say that it's been a great 8 years here. I apologize for my absence over the past 2 meetings. One of the main reasons I'm not running for re-election again is it's just become too hectic. But I'm still going to try to give it as much as I can for the remaining months that I have. But again, happy anniversary, honey. I know you're listening. Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tarnasky?
No comment tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Deloach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be quick. Also, the same thing, Wendell Chamber, town, thank you for everything. All the volunteers that help with the Harvest Festival. They do trust me to run the sound on stage and hold a microphone for a majority of the day, so I appreciate their trust in me. And I was not threatened by any dance moms during the day, so all went well. I will tell you, go ahead and mark your calendar, October the 1st. First Saturday, we get the question every year, when's the Harvest Festival? First Saturday, October 1st, 2022. So put it on your calendar now. It will be happening. And I will finish up real quick and just say I've done a lot of what I call Wendell selling lately, whether it's, businesses, potential residents. I wear a number of hats around town, but it is very satisfying when you have a conversation with a family that is considering, their options around whether they want to move to Wendell versus 5 other places. And so I have an opportunity to give my elevator speech, which I now have perfected. And it's nice to get follow-up from those same folks. I literally got an email this morning. Thank you so much for your time. we have decided to move to Wendell. That is a big thing for me. I pour a lot of time and effort into that. You know, you can see tonight, just the stuff that we have going on, the things we have going on, it's always an and. I know we talk about either or versus and, so credit the staff for helping us deliver the and. It does make it an easy sell. And very proud to call Wendell home and enjoy getting emails and messages of other folks that have decided to make the move here too. So, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. First, I feel like I need to apologize for sitting up here coughing all night. I'm struggling to get over a sinus infection. I've been to the doctor 3 times, and it is a sinus infection and only a sinus infection, in case you're wondering. The medicine I'm taking has dried me out, so my throat feels like it's got a huge crack in it. Makes me cough. But anyhow, I feel great. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for another successful Harvest Festival and the town staff for their support role. It was a long day for y'all. Thank y'all for that. I saw you out there all day long, and it's a long day, but it was pretty, so it was a fun day to be out. The Harvest Festival is a wonderful tradition here in Wendell. I think this was the 93rd, and citizens enjoy it. Longtime citizens really enjoy it. I think it brings back a lot of memories for them, and it brings visitors to our downtown, so it has an economic development role as well, so it's important for that. So folks can see what we have to offer and how great it is here. I'm looking forward to the Halloween treat trail. I want to remind you about that, October 29th from 5 to 8 at the Wendell Community Park. I can't wait to see your kids there. I'll have a ton of candy. They're still accepting vendors. There's no cost, and it's an opportunity to showcase your business. So come on out and join us. There are lots of people come through, and it's always a fun time. The last thing I wanted to tell you about is I virtually attended a meeting, the very first meeting of the Imagine Wake Alliance. And I was very honored to be selected to be part of the group. The purpose is to discuss and confront housing shortfalls and issues across Wake County. I thought about that actually with Commissioner Boyette's comments tonight. It's not just one issue. It's not just about affordability, but it's also about first-time home ownership, big homes, large homes, barriers to home ownership, the numbers that are coming to this area to settle. This area is, I think, the 3rd fastest growing area in the country. How to handle those needs, how to make sure we have a variety of things for a variety of people and a variety of things that they're looking for. So I look forward to participating in that group, and I'll update you as we meet. Hopefully our next meeting will be able to be in person. We're kind of waiting and seeing how things go. But if you are interested, you can look at you can see them on social media. There are links there to their website. It's imaginewake.com, and there are also links to various podcasts that they're producing about this. So it's very interesting to me, and I was honored to participate. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.
You're at the Armstrong, cases that were here when we started.